I got control over my own mute button again.
A very good evening, a warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine in a very different location because we kick off the week not on the Dan Really Likes Wine cellar, but at Royal Johannesburg in Kensington, which is the host of the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational with Bright Rock in support of the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation. And so who better to kick off the show with than somebody who's probably in the top 10 amateur golfers in South Africa, somebody who likes to celebrate because he's quite good at winning World Cups, and somebody who likes a glass of wine as well. Scott Brooks, hello.
Cheers. Hello, Dan.
It is so cool to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the flight. Thank you for the golf. It's a Monday, and I can sit you with you and have a bit of champagne.
Okay, well, it's some cup classique from Nederburg, and in just a moment we're going to bring in somebody from Nederburg who's a good friend of the show. Just before we do that, though, I think probably three really important reasons to have you here today. One, because the day is full of celebrities, and to have a Rugby World Cup winner is fantastic. Secondly, somebody who loves playing golf, and you're not a bad golfer at all. But then also, you, like me, an ambassador for the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation, and today's a day about raising some money and supporting a really good cause.
It is, for me, it's during the World Cup. I mean, everybody talks about winning the World Cup, but I really saw with my own eyes what sport can do, what change it can do, how it can overcome obstacles, bridges. And for me, it was amazing coming back to South Africa and feeling that great vibe and everybody just celebrating as South Africans together.
It was amazing, and we thank you guys constantly for it. And so we celebrate. We have some bubbles. So let's find out what the bubbles are. The head of having a good time at Nederburg is Niel Groenewald, who's been with us many times before. Niel, good evening. Welcome to Johannesburg.
Hi, good evening, guys. And thank you very much.
It's lovely to have another rugby player here because I know that you were a fearsome player in your time. I suspect out on the wing. Now time spent a little bit more making wine and making a range of it. Introduce us, if you will, to the bubbles we're having here. It's the Nederburg Cuvée Brut. Tell us what we're drinking and give us an introduction.
All right, yeah, so it's actually quite a recent release for us, our attempt of a Method Cup Classic. So it's a Chardonnay Pinot Noir, and it's spent 5 years on lees, so which makes the product quite unique. Quite a bit of finesse there when it comes to the bubbles. The grapes grown all in the coastal regions, so the only way I choose the grapes is when I can stand in the vineyard and actually see the sea. So yeah, maybe I have an unfair advantage to most others because I'm 6'8", but still I need to see the sea and feel the air breeze, and then I know it's cool climate grapes.
You've had your first at the Skulk. I know you're a keen wine drinker. We've done a few wine sessions over the course of lockdown. Does bubbles feature highly on your preferred list?
Actually not. My wife loves bubbles, but I must say this is quite amazing, Neil. Congratulations. And everyone that hasn't tried this, I would highly recommend this.
What is it about? Can you put your finger on it? What makes it special for you?
Like me personally, for me, if it just, everyone's got different tastes, different palates. And for me, I don't care what I drink as long as it tastes well. And this tastes fantastic.
So there we go. No, not quite a platter assessment, but it's for me, it's a really honest assessment. It is what you like to drink. And Neil, you'd imagine for a house as big and established as Nederburg that this would have been something that you've had for years and years and years. And yet, as you say, it's only a fairly recent addition. But what held it up and what prompted you to decide now is the time to bring this into the market?
Yeah, I think there's been a big trend towards, being a bit more festive in these dark and looming days. So definitely the app of Prosecco, sparkling wine, just as a category, growing on the back of champagne. So the whole first bubbles, try and enjoy everything. I think after 2008 already with the recession, definitely spoke us to start doing this. We wanted to do it slightly different, and that's why it took us actually from the day that we started with the project. I mean, it took us 7 years to actually have it in the bottle. So purely because of the method that we're using. And Skulk maybe compared to some other sparklings that you would have had. You'll see this one hasn't got quite a fierce acidity. It's quite mellowed down. You don't have to run to the medicine cabinet and get Gaviscon and Reddy's after the first glass. So, and that's what brings that 5 years of aging on the lees. So just that slow maturation that takes place and giving you this beautiful mouthful. I mean, it's like swallowing a glass of wine and it's like having an explosive ocean in your mouth. It's just all these waves crashing in constantly. So it's quite refreshing.
And it tastes so fresh. It's I mean, yeah, it just tastes.
You enjoy it, and that's the important thing. A wine you like is one you enjoy, and that makes it a good wine. And this clearly sits in the box. I know you say it's not something you drink that often, but surely there were a few bottles of champagne or Cap Classique after that World Cup final.
Dan, there was a lot out of the trophy, I must confess. Not just after the game, the day after that, and then the World Rugby Awards. We drank a lot out of that. And then about 7 days of celebrating through the country, where we took the trophy everywhere through South Africa. And it was just amazing having champagne and a lot of it. So I was off champagne for a little bit. But now this has taken me back.
Well done, Neil. You've got Skull Crits back on the bubbles. You, of course, make plenty of other wine, and in just a moment we're going to try some of the other wine with a couple of other celebrity guests here at the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational with Bright Rock. What I would like to know is it top of the list? What does the top of the list wine for Skull Crits?
Funny enough, travels-wise, Bristol Frieders I like a lot. And then particular wine or cultivar is a Malbec. We had a couple of Argentinians that we played with, and they always put some different kind of wines that is quite to my taste. The Argies is pretty much like us. They're friendly, open. They want to share their meats. They barbecue differently to us. And for me, it was quite nice to get something a bit different taste to what I'm used to.
We are celebrating all sorts of things, including that World Cup victory. There's also some celebration for you to do, Neil. I think this is a wine that Skull will probably enjoy because he does lean towards red. We need to give you some congratulations, a 5-star award for the 2017 Two Centuries Cab.
Thank you. No, very, very chuffed with that, definitely. So just reinforcing what we try and do with Cabernet. And so, yeah, we're very happy with the result. And that following that was obviously Veritas. So with all the double golds that my team brought home, I'm really excited. And yes, we are still celebrating. I must try the champagne out of a cup thing. So I think we need to find a cup big enough so that we can try that. Maybe it tastes different.
Well, maybe we can send you down to Nederburg with the World Cup trophy. See if Yuri will lend it to me.
I'll first get it from here.
Oh, that'll be a tough one to do. You mentioned Mendoza, you mentioned Argentina, you mentioned the Malbec. Just before we let you go, because I know you've got teammates waiting to continue celebrating today with, is there a particular wine memory from your travels around the world, visiting a game, something that sticks out as being particularly cool?
Well, you put me on the spot here. I must say, when we did Argentina a couple of times, as I previously mentioned, that was quite amazing. Australia itself, that was more for the whitish wine, not as heavy, if I can say that. But yeah, I just like drinking all different kinds of wine. And there isn't a particular reason, but I can say that for me personally, everywhere I go, I try to have a glass or bottle with my missus wherever we go, and try to different bottles and experience different kind of flavors.
It's a great approach to take, and it's one that just allows you to, I think, interpret different parts of the world through a glass or a bottle and be far the richer for it. Skull, it's been a pleasure having you on. What I would like to do is come down, because you're now in Stellenbosch, you're now a proper job, allegedly, and we're going to do some wine exploring over some golf and have you back on Dan Really Likes Wine again soon. But for now, thanks for being part of the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. Enjoy your wine. And I know Neil, as Skulk makes his way out, he's going to be trying some of your noble late harvest as well to see how that goes. So we'll give that a crack.
You'll come and visit and have some of your wine. Thank you so much.
Please do. Thank you.
Skark is on his way out. He's going to be collecting Matthew Booth, the Bafana captain, for me. While we do that, Neil, we've got the bubbles here. We're going to be going into the young Airhawk. Matthew Booth is going to be joining me in just a second. Give us the background to the young Airhawk. Tell me a little bit about it and the story, because I do love the history behind the names of all of these heritage hero wines.
All right, so the young Airhawk is basically it's named after a person called Arnold Grauer, and Arnold Grauer was the son of Johann Grauer, who bought the property in the 1930s. He was quite important for the history of Nederburg, where he was also a fermentation controller and a project manager at Beck's Brewery in Germany. So he brought the whole technique of cold fermentation to South Africa. Now his son in the late 50s actually took over from him, and him then being Arnold, so Arnold being a winemaker and had this passion for flying. And so the young Airhawk is named after Arnold Grauer. Actually, interesting, it was quite a tragic end where Arnold Grauer was actually in a plane accident. So the one thing that he actually loved most, he also passed away in that. But I recently actually heard that on the day of the accident, it would have been himself and his very good mate, Dougie Green from Douglas Green, would have flown together from Cape Town to Paarl. And Douglas Green eventually didn't go. Otherwise, you would have had a bigger loss to the industry, having both of them actually then be in the accident.
It's a tragic story, but it's one that is so full of history. And Matthew Booth has just caught the end of that. Matthew, part of the wine we've got here, the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational, is the Nederburg Heritage Heroes series, and it tells the story of so many people being part of the Nederburg story. And it's kind of what we do here at the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational, and what we do with the Dan Nicholl Shows, tell the stories of all these South African heroes and legends. And although we've had you on the Dan Nicholl Show a couple of times, and very happily so, we've never had a conversation about wine, which is a great failing on my part. So let's kick that off as we say cheers with some of the young Airhawk, which we'll get introduced to in just a moment. Before we get your thoughts on the wine in particular, tell us about your wine stories, something you like, something you drink a lot of, something that a kid from Fishhook has found a liking for.
Well, coming from Fishhook, it used to be as a dry area.
I think it still is, actually.
Yeah, it still is. Well, loosening up the regulations there at the moment, but yeah. So supporting local is a big is our mantra, both myself and my wife. So naturally, we are wine fans. We've got a fantastic industry in the Western Cape, and surprisingly, other locations around the country as well. So we're very keen. We wine lovers, although I'm not an expert or connoisseur.
But you enjoy it, and that's the important part. What about Matthew the footballer? We know you now in the post-career space, where life in theory gets a little more relaxed. When you were actually playing, were you able to have the odd glass of wine? Was it a very strict regiment? Were you desperately looking for something to keep warm while playing in Russia?
Yeah, so early on in my career, we had some very old school coaches, and they believed that the players shouldn't have any wine or alcohol. The night before pre-match, there was just water or juice. But then there were some very progressive coaches who came towards the latter stages, and they allowed a bottle of wine to be had at the table before, as long as, and it taught responsibility amongst the players as well. So there was a lesson learned there. But generally, it was a no-no, and especially towards the latter stages of my career, I had to be very careful in when I went out, when I drank, when I didn't. So now that I've retired, there are no restrictions then. So cheers.
Well, let's introduce you to this particular wine. And let's head back down to you in the winelands and give our former Bafana captain an introduction to this particular wine. Tell us what we're drinking.
Hi, Matthew. All right, so you're drinking the Young Airhawk. It's a Sauvignon Blanc, but made slightly different. It's actually aged in older barrels. So you'll see we're trying to work quite a bit with the acidity of the wine. So the acidity is very palatable, and that happens then by aging the wine in barrels. So you've got those tropical notes, a little bit of asparagus, the green fig leaves, but then combined with that, still that yeasty type of notes that you'll find as well from the barrel aging.
I'll give it a taste there. And what I did check this with Neil beforehand. I was a bit worried. The wine we gave Sculpt Brits was a little bit fuller, a little bit stronger. This isn't too overwhelming. People tend to fall over very easily when people look at them and then scream for their mums until they get a penalty. So hopefully this isn't too overwhelming. But what do you think of it?
Battle of the sports stand. We showed them flames.
This is true. This is true. What do you make of this? Are you a Sauvignon Blanc drinker? Is white wine something you and Sonia will have at home?
Look, to be honest, I'm more of a red wine drinker. But now that summer's arrived, kind of changes. So I start to drink a lot more white. Sonia likes the bubbles. Yeah, this is excellent stuff. Very drinkable. And yeah, what type of food would pair well with this?
Well, I would say my favorite recipe would be a chicken recipe. So you need about 6 bottles of the Airhawk Sauvignon Blanc and a very, very small chicken.
That sounds absolutely perfect. Reckon that'd go down well in the Booth household?
Absolutely, yeah. Sounds like a great.
What about as a whole? I know the rugby players just drink absolutely anything. We've got South Africa's top comedian coming up at the moment. He normally just drinks rum out the bottle and holds a can of Coke, so technically it's a rum and Coke. What about the footballers? Is there a wine drinking culture amongst South African footballers?
Not particularly. I feel that when football players go out, it's your vodkas, a lot of beer. We are quite a big beer drinking nation. So yeah, the biggest issue that we have is responsibility of when and where to drink, and that's definitely got to be, drummed into, especially young players. Is responsibility, and I don't think they've gotten it right. And generally, they only learn when they get a little bit older. But certainly, if I was a coach, I would definitely put a bottle on the table the night before and allow players to have a glass, just to teach them responsibility, not go wild to have too much of it. But yeah, like I said, the old school guys, just were very, very strict. But yeah, the culture of the footballing culture is mostly beer, vodka, tequila, the hard stuff.
We're going to try and change all of this. And what I think you can do, Neil, really successfully with this particular wine is not just hopefully get our footballers away from some of the hard attack and get them into the far more cultured world of drinking wine, but also for a lot of our white wine drinkers, and you'll know this more than most, we still have, especially in summer, a large chunk of people who sit in that kind of narrow space of what a Sauvignon Blanc should be, normally very crisp, very fresh, and drunk at minus 12 degrees, which loses so much of the wine. Here you've got a wine that's got a bit more with it. It's got a little bit of a barrel to it. It's broadening the horizons of the white wine drinker and starting to take them not just beyond the classic Sauvignon Blanc, but also into a Semillon, perhaps as far as into a Chenin or Chardonnay, and getting people to just be a little bit more explorative with what they're drinking this summer.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. This definitely does open up your horizons. And to the question earlier around food, I mean, I find that this specific style of wine works really well with oysters. So that would definitely be something that you can have with the Sauvignon Blanc. And then serving temperature also slightly warmer, I would say, than your normal stainless steel cold fermented style. So where, like you said, the minus 12 degrees Celsius, say that would be normally 12 degrees. I would make this about 14 to 15 degrees Celsius, just to give it time to actually give you more of those flavors and to sit with a glass and to see what type of lingering flavors actually come out. What's quite special about this wine is that we won't be any richer as a wine drinking nation or as a country or as an agricultural sector if we just sniff the wine. So after smelling the wine, it actually needs to taste fantastic. And I think that's what we get right with this wine, where everything that you smell, you actually get on the palate and just more so.
Well, you've got plenty of fans, not just the two of us here. I see Michelle Stradham saying she loves a wooded Sauvignon Blanc, watching us on Facebook at the moment. Schalk Stapelberg saying fantastic one. I think that might have been the Bubbles, but possibly referring to this one as well. And Reginald Peckler is watching from Cheetah Plains. Hi, Neil. I honorarily grant you a proper golden cup for taking financial suicide risk in fermenting that opulent Bubbles indelible. Well, I don't think it was too much of a risk once it's been tried, because it is lovely as is this particular wine. You might need a bit more of it this evening, because you might be celebrating a famous victory at the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. We've got prize giving coming up shortly. So I'll let you head off to that and prepare for it. But Matthew, a big thank you for joining us here today. Keep enjoying the wine, and maybe you can slip that into the red wine collection back at Chateau Booth. I'm
not going to be in line for any prizes, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy this wine. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
There we go. Former Bafana captain Matthew Booth joining us on Dan Really Likes Wine tonight at Royal Johannesburg. And Matthew will be heading off now. We're going to be joined in just a second by Jason Goliath, who's not just one of my closest mates, but he's also one of the most entertaining people on the planet and one of the worst golfers on earth. So it's a really nice combination. Matthew, I'll let you go and bring Jason in. While we do that, just give us a quick introduction, if you will, Mr. Groenewald. We have the winemakers, Noble Late Harvest. Give us a broad introduction to this particular range, the winemakers, where it sits in the Nederburg family, and how important that is to you.
All right. So the winemaker or the wine master is actually, it's extremely important. It's like the engine room of the business. So together with the Noble Late Harvest, we would have our Cabernet, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, so all the big 6 varieties. But normally you wouldn't have a Noble when you start looking at other varieties, at other wineries. But Noble is so close to the heart of Nederburg and the history and the heritage of Nederburg. Gunther Bruzel, then the winemaker that we had for 3 years, he actually brought that technique to South Africa with making the first Nobles and Edelkeur then specifically as well at Nederburg. And I remember being told that in the past, there wasn't, in our wine law, there wasn't a category for wines actually higher than 27 or 28 grams of sugar. And with this specific wine and the botrytis that it gets, where you get sugars of over 120, 150 grams per liter residual sugar, they actually had some of the inspectors of Salvis sleep in the cellar to make sure that no sugar was added during the ferment. It was just completely unheard of. So yeah, it's really important to us. We do still promote Noble Late Harvest, and this is a fantastic example of one. I mean, if you've got the 2018 vintage in front of you, then there shouldn't be space for anything except stickers. I mean, it's been voted one of the best Nobles in the world last year. It got like 98 points from the Wine and Spirits or the International Wine Spirits Challenge. It's just, there's been tremendous amount of awards over the years for Noble, and Nederburg and Noble then being similar or synonymous.
And that is part of the reason why we are trying it, because it is so awarded. But the other part is that one of my great challenges in life at the moment, Neil, is to try and persuade my dear friend Jason, and he is like a much older brother to me, to try and throw off some of the rum and coke and move into the world of wine. And so this, Jason, is a sweet wine. It's a dessert wine. I've given you something similar when you've come around for dinner. Yeah. And you've done your best to get to it. Because the Jason Goliath wine story, I think it's fair to say, is in its infancy.
I think it's fair to say that the Jason Goliath wine story is very similar to a very early episode of Dan Likes Wine, and that was when you did the box wines. That was, you know what I mean? I've never experimented further than the truth.
Well, first of all, welcome. It's lovely having you joining us.
Thank you for having us. What a wonderful day.
Oh, it's been a really special day.
I just want everybody to know that this is how I look after golf. Before golf, I'm beautiful, just like Dan, thin, you know what I mean, aerodynamic. This is post-golf.
Well, let's put a touch of that glow back. You're still looking amazing. You're the only man I know who can pull off leopard print trousers.
Thank you very much.
Not many people. Thank you for the one who lent them to Jason.
Thanks for that. I'll return them.
So you've got a palate, and yes. We're very big on this show of not telling people what they should or shouldn't be drinking, because really, if you like wine, it's good. If you don't, it's bad, and that's really your starting point. And you haven't drunk a lot of wine. You're a rum and coke man. That's fantastic. But there's a lot of wine I'd love to share with you. And I hope that's going to happen in years to come.
Well,
so we've got to start somewhere.
Yes.
And I think this is a really good place to start because it's a dessert wine. It's a bit sweeter.
I heard
Much like
150
yourself.
grams of sugar. I was in already. When I heard 150 grams of sugar, I was like, this is the wine for me. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, let's put it and see what you think. So this is the Noble Late Harvest. What I won't tell Jason is that it involves grapes rotting because I don't think he quite.
I've got no issues with the raisin, my friend. No issues with the raisin.
Oh. Who's that?
This is the reason I don't drink wine. Because this I would literally give me this in a draft glass and I would be happy. Let me just drink it straight from the bottle. My mouth is still salivating because this is the problem. It's too delicious.
It is glorious. It's that soft liquid silk. And this for me, and I think you'll probably agree with me. Look, you've got a big fan here straight away. He's going to be finishing a bottle of this in just a moment. Is there, Niel Groenewald, a category of wine, and I'm not just talking Nederburg, but in South Africa, is there a category of wine that is as neglected and underappreciated by the broader winemaking public as are South African sweet wines?
No, I don't think there is. I mean, if not maybe a South African category, but sherry, I think, would come very close. So, and then obviously the ports. But yeah, in general, sweet wines are quite neglected. We find that there's definitely being a bit of an uptake again, and it's not just awards, it's how you position the product. And yeah, we're playing with quite a few interesting things at the Manor House, for instance, for our Manor restaurant. We got in a mixologist to do some really top-end cocktails for us. There's some amazing cocktails that they're actually doing with Noble, where it's like with a froth and with mushroom shavings, and there's some really interesting stuff that we actually do to make it a bit more trendy again as well. Just to the point of the rum and coke, I always like just experimenting. So I took quickly a bottle of crafted rum that I had here on my shelf, and I added it. So I've got Noble rum basically in the glass now, and it actually works quite well. So you can start maybe enjoying Noble. Noble plus so Noble rot, Noble plus rum, it's Noble rum. So it really works well. You can try that in the future.
And I feel like you're a genius. I can't believe that. And I'm so glad I can blame you when I introduce this into my friend's circle. I'm so glad it wasn't my.
It's just been tried.
Yes.
There's a man who drinks, has rum with his Rice Krispies in the morning. So you've got a devoted follower. And I'm loving the fact that you're enjoying this. Almost too much.
It is too good.
Is it something though? So if you look at the way comedians tended to work, the world's a little different at the moment, but it was into the comedy clubs, into the gigs. It was all late night and smoky rooms, and that lent itself to a kind of rum and coke space, the things that would keep you going. Whereas sort of sitting down with a bottle of Pinot Noir, I can't quite see that in the late night comedian arena.
Look, there are a few comedians who have tried, but it just looks like you're trying. It's one of those things that even if you're a connoisseur, it looks like you're trying too hard. So, our world is about simple, quick, and drinking like you're in your 20s and don't respect your debit orders. That's basically the style. But I turned 40 a week ago, Dan, and therefore I have never been more open to your advice and experience because I want to be 40 now. I feel like rum and coke is so 39. And I feel like now I feel 40. This is yes.
Well, you're almost right because rum and coke is 39%. I'll move you on to this.
Well, 43, but I'll give it to you.
So Niel, I need some advice from you here. We've tasted 3 great Nederburg wines. We've tasted your brut. I'm going to give Jason some of the bubbles once we're done here. We've tried the Sauvignon Blanc, the Touch of Wood with Matthew, and now here the dessert wine, the Noble Late Harvest. This is the gateway into wine for Jason. What should be next on his list? What have you got at Nederburg that you then send up to Jason as his next case of wine, as he takes this journey? He's obviously like this. It's sweet. It's amenable to the palate. That's not terribly wine nuanced. What's his next step in the wine journey?
I think his next step definitely, and just looking at him, I would say the beautiful lady. So let's try him with some Gewürztraminer. So an off-dry Gewürztraminer, so nice and easy, recognizable flavors. The name of the wine also makes a lot of sense. So I would say the beautiful lady, and then we take it from there.
The name we say every day.
You
said it again now. Just go slow. Just break that up to me. This is who's Mina?
Mina. No, sorry, Gewürztraminer. So it's a grape variety. Yeah, it's a grape variety from France. It smells like roses, so it's rose petal flavors. It's a German variety, but really beautiful. Think of what is this? What is this sweet? I've got it. I actually bought it this afternoon. This rose petal, rose water sweets that you get, Turkish delight. So it's like Turkish delight squeezed into a glass.
Well, we have some of that here, thanks to Nederburg supporting the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. So I'm going to give you a large glass. I don't know, when you first hear it, Gewürztraminer sounds like they're playing third division in Austria. It's actually a cracking bottle of wine, and another one that could really do with some attention. So we have it for you. We're going to give it to you. And then I think what I'm going to do is actually just package you up and send you down to the Cape, because I think you and Neil have got a very, very good chance. And this is kind of like Tinder for wine drinkers. We've set up Jason and Neil. I think you two are hooked up for life.
Neil also,
I'm swiped right.
We are basically good friends now.
He is 6'8". Though.
I said same shape. I didn't say proportions. I didn't mention the proportions, but I'm sincerely impressed with this, and I'm going to try the Gewürztraminer. What I find is, and I hate to say it publicly, but the problem with the rum and coke is at 40 I start to feel the effects the next day. So I'm looking to broaden my palate, and my wife is from Paarl, so he's obviously a wine lover and has been trying to encourage me to experiment and put myself out there. So I feel like I'm in good hands now. The next time you see me, I will have one pinky in the air like this. This is going to be me now. This is me now. This is me. So I live my life now. This is me at 40.
And when you come and visit, we'll work on that rum and noble combination. I'll give you the ratios.
I look forward to it and hope you have a spare room, because that sounds like I'm not going home.
Oh dear, that is a perfect note on which to wrap up. We're about to head over to our prize giving and charity auction at the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational, presented by BrightRock here at Royal Johannesburg and Kensington, where amongst our many partners are Nederburg, who are a partner on the Dan Nicholl Show and have supplied plenty of wine this evening, both for our prizes and auctions and for our tasting. Now, Neil, I know you weren't able to make it up to join us today, but you're certainly here in spirit, and we thank you not just for that, but for your support of the day and for playing professor to young student Goliath here. He's taken a big step forward in his wine journey. So, Neil, thank you so much for joining us. And I know both Jason, myself, Scott Brits, and Matthew Booth look forward to coming down and continuing our education.
Can I just say before everybody goes, firstly, so Neil, thank you and Nederburg for being part of this day, but a massive shout out to Dan. I think that Dan is always the one that hogs the microphone, and he's always using all of this English. He uses all his English all the time. There's so much English, and it's very easy to get lost in that English and forget that this is easily the best man on the planet. Like I want you guys to share this show. I want you to watch this show, and I want you to understand wine, because he doesn't do anything that he's not passionate about. He's one of the kindest human beings that I've ever met in my life, and he does a huge day like this for a good cause, not for himself. So it's not just about wine. I think it's bigger than wine, and I think that wine is the gateway to you joining Dan's tribe of being kind always, all the time. So share the show, like the show, keep watching the show, and keep experimenting with wine and keeping an open mind, because we learned today that rum can be mixed with wine for a good time.
Oh, there we go. Jason, very kind of you. So thank you. Neil, thank you also very much. We really appreciate it. To you and the team, Jackie, Marguerite, you've been fantastic supporters, and we're very grateful. So cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
So there we go. Niel Groenewald, rugby superstar, now running the world of wine down at Nederburg. And Jason and I are going to bid you farewell. A reminder that Dan Really Likes Wine, brought to you by Pick and Pay. If you have the opportunity, please jump online. If you're not already, become a member of the Pick and Pay Wine Club. It's absolutely free of charge, and it gets you, amongst other things, 20% off 10 different wines each month. You get 25% off a particular magnum or case. And if you're shopping online, you will have the opportunity to get your wine delivered free of charge if it's 6 bottles or more. Add in 3 times the Smart Shopper points, and it really is a no-brainer. Thank you, Karen Bothma, chipping in there with a word of thanks to Jason. And Karen, thank you for always watching and supporting. Thank you to Jason, thank you to Skull, thank you to Matthew, and the rest of our celebrities who've joined us at the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. And a final word from a hard-drinking young resident of Belfast in Northern Ireland, Helen Nicholl, my mother, saying Jason can come and drink wine with us too any time.
I'm going to take you up on that, Auntie Helen. Auntie Helen, I'm going to take you up on that. Dan will explain the auntie part later.
Well, Danny Helen, my head on you. All right, we're off to do prize giving here at Royal Johannesburg in Kensington. Big thank you to Chris Bentley and their team for hosting us today, to Bright Trog for backing the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. It's been a terrific day in support of the Laureus Sport for Good Foundation, and a huge, huge thank you to the Nederburg team led by Neil with Jackie and Marguerite, who are such great supporters of charity and of the Dan Nicholl Show Invitational. I'm back again on Thursday live, where, amongst other things, we'll be trying wine from De Krans, and not just their port, but some slightly different wines as well. Thank you for joining us. Huge thank you to Matthew, to Skull Brits, and to Jason Goliath. Keep enjoying your wine, keep drinking, keep experimenting, and keep supporting South African wine. Cheers.